Good morning. My friend Don is going to speak this morning. He told me to keep the introduction really brief, so I hope you like him. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but I failed. No, all seriousness, I'm privileged to introduce my friend Don Fowles this morning. About 40 years ago, Don and his wife moved to this community and took a little job with the Christian Campus House, and he and his wife invited my wife and I over for coffee and pie at the little parish house they lived in, and we went there, and we've been friends for over 40 years. And I actually asked to introduce him this morning because I really like him. I asked him for his resume of what he's done, which is considerable, and he told me to just read a little bit out of his brochure, which I'm going to do. Don, you're going to have to wait a minute, sorry. Which I'm going to do. And then I'm going to say a few other things about him, and then we'll let him get up here. So this is what it says in this brochure, which is from his current ministry. It's called Pastor to Pastor Initiatives, where he counsels and comforts pastors. Thank you. I needed that. That's why I had a son. Okay, is that better? Okay, so where he counsels and comforts pastors very successfully and has for quite a few years. And here's what his brochure says. Don Fowles is the director of Pastor to Pastor Initiatives, a coaching, mentoring, and counseling ministry to pastors and leaders in East Central Illinois. Since his campus ministry days at the University of Illinois back in the 1980s, Don has been drawn to encouraging pastors and giving them hope. His long career has convinced him that, quote, all pastors need a pastor, unquote. He is particularly interested in exploring how spiritual health and emotional health are deeply related. With his strong gift of encouragement, his keen listening skills, and his knack for asking great questions, pastors from churches throughout the area seek his counsel. Just this last week, he completed a fall course for 16 pastors called Soul Work, Doing the Unseen Work in a Leader's Life. For many years, Don has been the regular Sunday religion columnist for the Champaign-Urbana News Gazette, having now written more than 750 columns. Maybe some of you read them. They're really good. Don is married to Jennifer, who is on the faculty in the College of Media at the University of Illinois, and Don and Jennifer have led more than 20 marriage retreats they call Discovering an Emotionally Healthy Marriage. And just in addition, beside the campus house outreach to students, he spent time reaching out to international students. Some of you may remember the Urbana conferences that took place here for many years in our community, the big missions conferences. Some of you, anyone ever go to those, the mission conferences, some of you? Well, Don coordinated all those logistics on those for several years, quite a job. And also, he's probably been on subbed in more area pastorates than you can even count. So he's one of my very best friends, truly a man of God. I call him a jack of all trades and a master of many. He has a rich devotional life and takes prayer very seriously. I know he prays diligently, and when God calls him, I don't know of anyone who responds to that call as best he can. So this morning he's going to talk about the best kind of smart. I'll let him tell you what that means. And so please give a warm welcome to my friend Don.
Thank you, Vern. Thanks, sir. Well, good morning. I'm going to talk about the best kind of smart, but I have to tell you, Vern introduced me to Purdue sports the first time I met him. The very first time I met him, he says, I want you to know I'm a Purdue fan. And so I've been following Purdue sports via Vern for a long time. So early on in our friendship, he calls me, and Vern can be a little insistent. And he says, okay, you've got to save this date. It's like February 10th. He calls me in September. You got to save this date, and here's the deal. We're going to drive over into Indiana to this bar, and we're going to eat, and we're going to watch Purdue play basketball. I know it's still football season, but can you go on Tuesday, February 10th? Can you let me know in the next 30 minutes? So I say, hey, Jennifer, my new friend Vern wants to take me over into Indiana. So we drive near West Lafayette, Indiana, some little town. We eat together, and we watch Purdue basketball. And boy, if that doesn't endear you to a guy. We've been close friends ever since. So, yay, Vern. So this summer, I'm going to tell you a little story, and I'll tell you where I'm going this morning. This summer, Pastor to Pastor Initiatives Board gave me a little study break, and I studied at Phoenix Seminary in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived in the desert for about 9 weeks. And I took a class at Phoenix Seminary called Spiritual Formation and Direction, and with about 15 MDiv and doctoral students from Phoenix Seminary. I just audited. But it was really interesting, and we talked about really letting Christ be formed in us. What does it mean to be a spiritual director? Stuff that you can imagine. And one day we talked about going to still. Jesus got up early in the morning and went to a desolate place to pray. And our professor on that particular class talked a lot about being still and know that I'm God. And he said, you know where Jesus went? He went to a place called still. And it was a really interesting discussion, and we talked about it as a class. And one of the pastors there, a pastor from somewhere in Metro Phoenix, said, I've never been to still. And I thought that was really interesting. He said, I've been a pastor 20 years. I've never been to still. I've never been there. And so I engaged him. I just said, would you like to go there? I said, just in front of the class, in front of him. He said, boy, I don't know. I said, where have you been the last 20 years? He said, I don't know, preaching, teaching, doing weddings, doing funerals, arguing with my wife about me being a pastor, and she didn't really want me to be one. He was just kind of transparent. And I said, what does it really mean to get in touch with who you are? Would you like to meet with me? I asked him. So we had lunch. And I said, tell me about who you are. And I really like to ask questions. And I said, what makes you tick? And he tells me. He said, I've never been quiet in my life. I've never really been quiet. And I think you can't really know who you are unless you really get quiet before the Lord. So I think Jesus, my hero, really did go to a place called still. That's where I think he went. Not just early in the morning, but sometimes there are accounts where after he fed the 5,000, for example, he went up into the hills to pray. What happened up there? Well, my contention is that he really became so aware of who his Father was that he was able to be totally self-aware in his life and very other-aware. And so I'll give you the takeaway. I think the very best kind of smarts is when you are really, really wise. And Proverbs says, if it costs everything you have, get wisdom. Whatever it takes, get understanding. And my contention is that true wisdom is best given to us when we are God-aware, and when we are other-aware, and when we are self-aware. And I've worked hard on that in my life because I was raised in the land of Numb, N-U-M-B. I still know how to get there. I don't like going there, but I know how to go there. I can get there real quick. Starts right here. Ask me how I'm doing. How are you doing, Don? Just fine, thank you. How are you? Because everybody in the land of Numb is just fine. Everybody's fine in the land of Numb. That's not the world Jesus lived in. And I'm going to give you what I think is one of the most emotionally laden stories in the Gospels about Jesus being really a better kind of smart. I'm going to read it for you. We'll talk about it. Then I'm going to give you a little cheat sheet that you can use in your life that will talk to you about being how you can be self-aware and other-aware and God-aware. Because if you're those three things in your life, you're going to be the best kind of smart there is. You're going to really be wise. So let's read the story. I'm going to read it off the screen. I'll be the reader and you just be the follower along. How about that? This is in Luke chapter 7. And you may know this story where Jesus has quite an encounter where it would be real easy to fold your arms and go to Numb, and we'll talk about that. He didn't do that. You'll see that. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she's a sinner. Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii, the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned to the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. The other guests began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. And I'll tell you about the emotions in that story. Wow. Boy, are there emotions in that story. That one just about knocks my socks off. You know, a guy from the land of Num. Woo! I mean, there are huge relational issues every day where we need to be really self-aware and other-aware and God-aware. And how do we discern our emotions? Are you pretty self-aware? Yeah. Good. I love that. All kinds of emotions in this story. Some of the main emotions. There's fear, there's anger, there's guilt, there's probably shame, and lots of positive emotions. I mean, Jesus gets invited to a party. Ever been invited to a party? I got invited to a party that was way out of my league not long ago. And my wife goes with me. I say, hey, we're going to this party. She immediately wants to know, is this for fun or is this a work obligation? Are you going to flit around? Are you going to leave me alone? I said, no, it's both. And you know, and she's trying to figure this out. It can't be both. I said, okay, it's just for fun. Then you're not going to do ministry then, right? And then she says, by the way, can you imagine what she asked me next? What am I going to wear? I have nothing to wear to that. So Jesus gets invited to a party, and he accepts this. And how does he feel about it? He accepts the invitation. How does he feel about going to the party? What? Excited? Yeah, excited. Maybe nervous. I doubt he was too nervous about it, but he might have been. How does Simon the Pharisee feel? He's the host of the party. Maybe he feels, I don't know how he feels. Now, because you know the end of the story, you know that he does things that are culturally appropriate that he just bysteps, right? And who told us that? Well, Jesus told you in the story, didn't he? He said, I came to your house and you missed on several things. You can give me the kiss, you knew my feet. So Jesus knew what the appropriate cultural thing was. How'd that make Jesus feel to be snubbed like that? Well, how would it make you feel to be snubbed? Would you like that? Oh, I'd feel excited if I went to a party and they snubbed me. I'd be great. I'd feel very content. If I got snubbed like that, I'd feel very safe. No, you wouldn't. What would you feel? Irritated. That's a painful emotion. Yeah, irritated. What else would you feel? Hurt. That's a painful emotion. I mean, who wants to be snubbed, right? So, I mean, Jesus had emotions. And then as soon as the party starts, and you have all the folks there, right? Chancellor's there, the president's there, CEO of Carl's there, they're all there, right? I mean, you're rubbing shoulders with these folks. You look good, too. You wore the right thing. To which you say to me, are you sure? Are you sure I look okay? I don't have a tie on. Do my pants break okay? Ooh, I didn't shine my shoes. Are they okay? They're black. Do you think they should be brown? No, it matches your black belt. You're okay. Okay. And then you say to me, chill out. Dude, just chill. You're okay, dude, chill. You ever been there? And Jesus is there. He goes. They're getting started. And who comes for him? A woman. What's she doing there? What's she doing there? Crashing the party. Has she been there before? Oh, I think she's been there plenty of times. I think she's been there before. And she goes for Jesus. And what happens? Well, she goes for him. And the story says she's sinful. What's her sin? What? You know what her sin is? What's your guess? Yeah. Says she's a prostitute, but it doesn't say she is. Well, you think, well, look, she's got the tools of the trade, right? She's got the massage oil. She wets his feet with her tears. She wipes them with her hair. No upright woman would do that. No, it doesn't say she's a prostitute. But that's what we think, isn't it? And isn't it interesting, friends, how we do this in our lives? We decide as a community who is sinful. Oh, that person has a degree from the University of Illinois. What's he doing on welfare? Well, he's no good guy. Guy's never worked in his life. And we just label him. Do you like to be labeled? Oh, I hate to be labeled. Don't you hate to be labeled? Oh, it's you. I don't want my kids to be labeled. I don't want my wife to be labeled. I don't want you to label me. Because you might bring out my fighting spirit. Well, she shows up and she goes right for Jesus. And when she goes for him, how does he feel about that? How does he feel about it? Gentlemen, how would you feel about that? Would you be nervous? Would you be on guard? Particularly everything that's happened in the news about sexual harassment the last 2 weeks. What if it happened in that kind of thing? What would you feel? Oh, I'd feel very loving and kind if that happened to me. I'd be so relaxed. I'd be utterly content if a woman came for me and wept. I'm a married man, but I'm so inclusive and I'm so honoring of all people. I'd just be relaxed. I would not be relaxed. No, I'd be right here, baby. And I know how to go there. And so that makes me think Jesus had options. What options does he have? And in your life, I'm going to say by extension, you have options. Option number one, some of you would do this. What could Jesus have done? Could have fought, right? He could have fought. I mean, there are probably some fighters in a group this size. Because we know Jesus wasn't treated with the kind of social courtesy he should have been treated with. He says that to Simon in the story. He already says it. But, if you fight, what do you do? What would a fighter do here? A really, really courageous fighter at a party like that with muckety-mucks. Well, you might have stood up and said, excuse me. Whoa, time out. You don't treat me or her that way. Now, Jesus divines the situation. We know that because it says he knows what Simon is thinking, right? He knows what Simon, and what's Simon thinking? I've invited this jerk to my party, this rabbi. Ha! What's this rabbi know? Look at this. If he knew what kind of woman this was, the whole community knows the kind of woman she is. Isn't it interesting how the community knows who sinners are? It's a terribly unfair way to treat people, isn't it? These are the sinners. These are the educated people. They're all white, aren't they? They're good. Churchgoers. They got John 3:16 memorized in lots of translations. I'm going to hang with those people. My goodness. So he already knows what Simon is thinking. And He could have fought, and he could have said, you don't treat me this way, and you can apologize right now while I wait. A few of you might have done that. He didn't do that. Some of you would have fled, right? You would have said to the woman, what? I don't know. We're having a party afterwards. I'm going to be sharing about the kingdom of God. I'll introduce you to my disciples. I presume you know me because you came here and you felt love for me, and I'm out of here. Bye. Right? Simon, thank you. Good night, friends. You fled, right? And who would have met you at the door? All your friends from Grace Community Church would have met you. And they would have said, you didn't deserve to be treated that way. You had enough courage to get up and leave. Boy, I respect you. Thank you for getting up and leaving. Could be. That's not what Jesus did. Some of you might have done what I would have done. Gone to where? Frozen. I can go to Frozen and still talk to you. Hey, how are you doing? Nice to see you. It's good. Good to see you. Oh, yeah, you look great. How's your life going? Well, you look good. And your kids, tell me how they're doing. I'm feeling utterly, totally uncomfortable, but I'm talking. But there's a huge plexiglass around me. Man, I'm just gone. Hey, great to see you. It's really good to see you. Hey, let's have coffee. What do you say? You have your calendar on? Oh, I don't have my phone on me. Well, I do, but the battery's out. Yeah. Hey, let me put the ball in your court. Why don't you contact me? I'll be glad. I meet with pastors all the time. We'll have coffee, right? You never see Charlie Brown movies when the teachers talk? Wah, 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 wah. It's me. This is nothing. I'm just doing my pastoral thing from the land of numb. I just freeze. It's not real. Could be it. Jesus didn't do that. He does what I think you have to do to be really wise, to really be the better kind of smart. He's utterly present. He stands up and he says, may I say something? And Simon, the Pharisee, the host of the party, in front of all the muckety-mucks, is about to get his hiney nailed to the backside of the wall. I don't know if Jesus did it intentionally, but he did, obviously. He tells this story about people that owe money. One who owes a huge amount, one owes very little, and they both get forgiven. And he says, who loves him more? And boy, I think Simon is squirming. Squirming. You kind of love it, don't you? Come on, Jesus. Come on, buddy. You're in there. Well, I love the fact that he's so present. And Simon says, oh, well, I don't know. I suppose the one who got better forgiveness. Oh, good answer, Simon. Good answer. Right. And then what does he do? He turns to this woman and he says to Simon, oh, it's brilliant. A lot of emotions going, but he's really present. How did he do that? How did he stay so present? That's my really encouragement to you. I think to really be wise, you've got to be self-aware. I mean, sometimes, because I was raised in the land of numb, I already told you I know how to go there. I don't like going there very often. And my wife was not raised in the land of numb. She was raised by a single mama who was a mother bear if there ever was one. She was a real fighter. Her mama was a fighter. Woo! And she raised a fighter who never goes to numb. She knows exactly what she's feeling. And so, you can imagine this, can't you, men? When my wife says, wait, don't go there. Where are you going? Where are you going? I say, nowhere. She said, then uncross your arms. Right? She knows the signs. You're in numb. And so we've learned to negotiate, and I've learned to be a better fighter. I mean, it's good to fight. Jesus really fights for this woman. Don't you love this about him? In this emotionally laden story with Simon and the muckety-mucks, the chancellor and the CEOs of the hospitals, and all those folks from State Farm, from Bloomington Normal come down. They're all there. And he's so present. Don't you love this about him? That takes courage, doesn't it, to be present? And I think one of the elements of being relationally wise, get wisdom, whatever it takes, get it, is to be present. You got to be willing to enter. You got to be willing to uncross your arms and say, here I am. Be self-aware. So one of my takeaways is be more present in your life. Don't go somewhere. Don't hide. Be present. Because you might need to be present not only for yourself, but for other people. Jesus is present for this woman. And I love him for that. I think he's very courageous. So I've developed a way I think about this. You can put my slide up now of my 6 ways of thinking about being smart. And you help me pass these out, and then I'll explain this little cheat sheet for you. And then you can have it. You can take it with you. I use this all the time. I work with about, I don't know how many pastors I work with, a bunch. Pastors, leaders, and I'm always talking to them about being self-aware. It's really tempting for a pastor because a pastor really lives with people. Pastors are not perfect, right? Have you figured that out by now? Yeah, but I love pastors, and I appreciated this guy saying, I don't think I've ever been kind of too still before. You know, and he told me when we met, he said, I've spent a lot of my life hiding. I said, you like hiding? And he said, no, but I'm so used to it, I hide without even knowing I'm hiding. Yeah, I get that. I can imagine that. So, when you are really smart, I think there are 3 things that have to happen. I think you have to be God-aware, I think you have to be self-aware, and I think you have to be other-aware. Now, when I was in seminary, back a long time ago, before cars, it was even before I met Vern, back in the Paleolithic age, I really learned to be God-aware. Look, here you need to memorize the whole Bible. That's how you become a good pastor. Just memorize that sucker. Genesis to Revelation. So I memorized the whole Bible. And they said you need to care about other people because people are important. You got to love your neighbors. You love yourself. You got to love your neighbor. Okay. But what no one ever told me, or maybe I just missed it, was love yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so the first thing I want to say is I really want you to practice being self-aware. And when? All the time. All the time. What are you feeling? I'm feeling fine. You can't be fine. Right? You're not fine. I went to an AA meeting once, and I told the guy, they asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm doing fine. He said, you are not fine. This is how I got introduced to this. I said, I am fine. He said, I'm going to tell you, buddy, there are lots of things you are, but fine is not one of them. He's like a big guy with a beard, and I thought, well, do I take this guy on? I'm just a guest. And he said, would you like me to tell you what you are? I said, I think you'd like to tell me what I am. He said, well, FINE is an acronym. This is an acronym, too, that I'm giving you, the SOG plan. But his acronym was FINE. He said, F means fouled up. But that's not the word he used. Can you imagine what he said? Yes, you can. I means insecure. N means naive. And E means egotistical. If you're fine, that's what you are. I said, well, I'm not that. He said, good. Now we're getting somewhere. So, you get my point. So, what does it mean to really engage your emotions? There are only 2 kinds of emotions, right? And both of these emotions, I think, are playing out in our story today, don't you? 2 kinds of emotions. They're positive emotions. I mean, there are positive emotions in the story, don't you think? Loving. Isn't Jesus loving? He's loving. He's kind. He's courageous. That's a positive emotion. I think the woman is courageous. I think Simon the Pharisee is kind of an idiot. I think he's egotistical. I'm just judging him. I'm just guessing on this. Now that I know the story, I don't like him much. You like him? What could you like about that guy? He invites Jesus, one of the young rabbis, and doesn't even greet him well. What a jerk. See, I'm using painful emotions, aren't I, as I describe it? They're painful emotions. And my guess is you're feeling them both at the same time, right? I mean, what do you think about this in your life? What are you happy about right now? Well, you're happy about something probably, aren't you? Yeah, you're feeling it. I'm happy about whatever. You know what it is in your life. Well, what are you angry about? Well, but you're angry about something too. So isn't it interesting how we feel all these emotions at the same time? And sometimes we don't know what we're feeling. That's what I tell my wife, Jennifer. Honey, I don't know what I'm feeling. She can find her emotions quickly. Quickly. I admire that about people. Because I still want to do this. I'm so used to it. I still want to go, uncross those arms. Don't you go to fine. Because we already know what fine is, don't we? Right? So you're feeling positive emotions and painful emotions, and that's normal. What am I feeling? What just happened? Right, I was in the Schnucks parking lot. Oh, maybe I shouldn't use too many words here. That's okay. And I got cut off the other day, and I'm listening to some praise music in my car, and I got cut off. And all of a sudden, I'm listening. I'm content. I'm praying. I'm being present with the Lord. The guy cuts me off. Out of my mouth, I scream. My wife is beside me. Jerk! She looks at me and she said, where'd that come from? Right? Isn't it interesting how quickly you can feel at the same time? I just said to her, and I said, honey, that came from a bad heart. Right? Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. I wanted to say, oh, honey, it's not the man I am. No, it is the man I was. It's not the man I want to be. Well, I think self-awareness, I give you questions there. I think they're good ones. You can look at some scriptures there. What are the consequences? Is there a different route I could take? What are you feeling? What's happening in your life? Part of getting wisdom, the best kind of smart, is knowing what happened. You think Jesus wasn't self-aware in this story? We know he was. Because he points out to Simon in front of everybody, look, man, you didn't even greet me properly. That took some courage, don't you think? And don't you like it when he looks at the woman, but he's speaking to Simon? Oh, man. And if you're one of the muckety-mucks, are you liking this? Maybe, maybe not, right? You know how to kind of go down in your chair? You know how to slink down? And you know what that means? I hope they don't point to me. Oh, you're the head of the big plant here, aren't you? No, that wouldn't be me. I think it would be. Well, what are those around you feeling? What are you feeling? How's this affecting you? I want to be other aware. Because when you become aware, when you become self-aware, I become self-aware that I'm just a guy saved by grace. But when I become engaged with myself, then I say, Lord, cause the fruit of your Spirit to ripen in my life. Right? Welcome. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Holy Spirit, ripen those in my life. Cause the fruit of your Spirit to ripen. I become engaged. I become aware of what's going on with people. Then I become engaged with people. I become aware that God, you are the King and the Creator. I become God aware. Then I become God engaged. I trust you. You're trustworthy, aren't you, God? So you become aware. That's knowledge. Then you become engaged. What are you going to do about it? And that, I think, that circle plays round and round. It goes 360. Because you're going to have every opportunity to be self-aware today. You're going to have every opportunity to be other-aware. And you're going to have every opportunity to be God-aware. And that's really what it means, men and women, to love God with your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. I mean, your whole essence. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. I mean, God loves you. He's proud of you. Maybe your dad never told you that. My dad only told me that late in his life. He told me late in his life he loved me. I'm like, gee, it's about time. But I've met a lot of people who never heard that. But if you can go to Still, if you can go to a place called Still, you know what happens when you get to Still? You know what you hear in Still? You get to hear the same thing Jesus hears. Oh, no, it's not me. Oh, yeah, I think so. I think you hear the same thing he heard. And you know what he heard when he got up early in the morning and went to a desolate place to pray? Well, he heard all kinds of things, right? But among them, I think he heard exactly what he heard at his baptism. Exactly what he heard at the Transfiguration. You know what he heard at those two places? Golly, I did good with you, didn't I, son? That's my boy. Man, I love him. You see that pretty girl? I created her. Ha! Is she a beauty or what? Inside and out. Boy, I love you so much. That's what happens when you go to Still. Good things happen when you're still. Be still and know that I'm God. How about this poor guy in Phoenix who said, I've never been to Still? And I said, I think you ought to go there. He said, when I start to get still, I get angry. I said, that's okay, I get angry too. He said, I swear when I get angry. I said, that's okay, I do too. He said, no, you don't. I said, don't push me. And yet, God says when we get there, when we're self-aware, he says, I made you, honey. I love you. Your dad never told you that, but I'm telling you that. I love you. So good things happen at Still. So my takeaway and my final thing is just to say, men and women, the best kind of smart is to get this kind of self-awareness, this kind of other awareness, this God awareness, and this self-engagement, this other engagement, and this God engagement. If it costs everything you have, get it. Get it. It's worth it. It's what Jesus had, our hero, in this wonderful event where he is courageous and he just stands up for this woman. Man, that's just love. That's out of the depths of his soul. That's no, whatever had happened to her. I think she'd been abused in every which way but loose. And it's just awful. And he's so doggone courageous. Be like that. Be like that. Spend time with him, because when you're with him, you're going to hear what it takes to be this kind of person. And that is, you're my daughter. You're the one. You're the only one like you I made in the whole world, doggone it. Go for it. You're good enough. You're good enough. You're pretty enough. I know I made you. So that's the better kind of smart men and women. Amen? Amen.